This is Total Disruption Boardroom Battleground, where bold entrepreneurs step up and they put their businesses to the test.
Over the next 12 weeks, we'll push our contestants beyond their limits in branding, marketing, leadership, strategy, scalability, and profitability. Every move counts. Every misstep, a crucial lesson. Every victory, a moment to shine. Behind the scenes, a world-class production team will showcase their business like never before.
In the end, a single superstar is going to rise above the rest.
This is Total Disruption.
Boardroom Battleground.
I was looking at it like this. You know, when you have a great idea and you really start kicking ass and you really start doing things, I call that bubbling up. Well, we want it to not only bubble up, we want it to overflow. Once things start to overflow, there's enough heat underneath that idea or that habit or that process. It's just coming out of the pot. We don't want to have it bubble down because it's too new. We don't want to have it bubble down because it's not being reinforced enough. We don't want it to just simmer. We don't want that. Bubble over, right? Bubble over.
I think this is true. I think this is what you said is true. All the contestants relative to habits. We don't want to, will they slip back into old habits? Does that happen? Yes, it can absolutely happen. We have heard there's multiple numbers, 27 days, 44 days, 66 days, 128 days in order to form and run a habit. Now, every one of those is a benchmark depending on who they are. And we've been asked, why is the show run 24 episodes? Why is it 12 weeks? Because we felt that was the most appropriate way to build and set those habits in order for them to sustain the business they needed to sustain going forward. We want to see them succeed.
Yes. And not only do we want to see them succeed, we want to see them thrive, make the impact, and then look back and say, damn, I really got that aha moment here. And I owe it to these guys. That would be the biggest kudos.
Yeah, 5 years from now, I want every one of the contestants to look back and say that's where it started. That's where the movement happened.
I'm in a process of rebranding myself of who I am and what might be better, not come across better to people, but be more genuine in who I am deep down, and then that I can portray that to others as well.
Now, I think a big moment for Emily also was in episode 6, where I believe she had that head-to-head with Chad, which we saw a different layer of Emily. And I'm impressed. I love the curtain, and then the curtain, and then when the whole damn curtain rod falls down. And the whole damn curtain rod fell down. And it was no longer the person behind the person, right? It was like, wow, that's Emily. That was really cool. It was really cool to see her assert herself as opposed to being a little too conservative behind the brand. Because I don't know what you think, but because someone's represented a product, sometimes they've got personal blinders on where, I better not. Outside of doing anything majorly derogative or running for a political position, that's kind of that's a self thing. That's like a self thing, right? You can show who you are and still represent a brand. Again, obviously, you got to make sure you're doing ethical and social responsibility. But if you want to show your fierceness, show your fierceness. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree with that. And I thought that was another point at Emily that we met. Now, we know that she came out of the financial world corporately. She used to be she was in the finance division for the U.S. Olympic Committee and the rodeo. Like, she did amazing things there. And it was a great moment. And I'm glad that she was able to step in and go head to head with Chad in that moment, because that brought that element of her to her business. I had another great aha, and it's in it. You'll see it much later in her future documentaries, that I was there when we filmed it, and it was awesome. And and you're going to love it. It was a moment. We were at the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame filming her. It was so fun to be there for her. And she was so candid in those conversations. And it was so much fun that there's one particular moment that I enjoyed more than any others. And as professionals in the background, we're all supposed to be real quiet. It was all I could do to not laugh out loud and applaud that moment. It was so cool. So that's one you're going to see in future episodes.
I've had a long career of leadership. I had a team at one point of like over 50 in the corporate CFO routes. But this week, it kind of have been drawn back into that corporate consulting and the CFO role for fractional Catholic Charities. So been kind of realizing that it's all a balancing act, right? When you want multiple sources of income. So we have like the consulting on the CFO side, and then how I can apply some of those leadership abilities more towards my LifeWave business. So I think that's one area I've lacked this time in building LifeWave, is applying that same leadership and development of my staff into, building a team for LifeWave and helping them reach their potential through income generating activities as well, and sharing the stem cell patches and changing people's lives in their world. So having that time to shift, back towards LifeWave and apply that leadership more intentionally on my team there, I think is going to help me a lot this next few weeks.
The last one I want to point out in Emily's journey for mid-season is episode 10. And we're talking about the network marketing pieces, and we're talking about that leadership development. And this is where Emily really came out and started leading herself, because it's not necessarily just about being a leader and being an influencer. This is where Emily started to lead herself in her business. She owns a business and she's in sales, and she's making the decision to be in sales.
Well, I think you're right, but I also think this springboard to see her in episode 6 also led to the components of when we see that in 10. And you do eventually have to sort of work the parallel track of personal brand and sales. The lights can't go on. Nothing happens until the sale is made, right? If you don't have a prospect list, you don't have a product to sell, you don't have somebody to sell it to, you have a hobby, you have nothing. You have a bonus or a charity. And you got to have that. Yeah, 100%. Without there's nothing. There's no thing to do. So at some point, you do have to make sales. At some point, you do have to have hey, this is my personal brand. And yeah, I show my teeth here and there. But you have to have those blunt asks. And
it's true. Every contestant we have.
Well, a friend of mine on Instagram is a pretty good guy, specializes in personal training for busy dads and busy moms. And he's got this little thing where he does every 4 posts, he'll do what he calls a blunt post. And he's from Canada, so he says blunt post. But, it's this, you have to figure out a system. You have to figure out the ask. And I feel like Emily needs to realize she's got to develop her own system and her own ask, and in a way that's not so much, hey, resell my product, hey, try my product. No, she's got to come up with her own system. All right, man. I feel like we've come we want to see Emily's journey. I feel like we brought the audience up to speed on where we think Emily needs to go in the next 10 or so episodes, or 5 or whatever it is left in our season here. Will she or won't she create that system? To be determined.
Find out.
You have to stick around and figure it out.
I would love to be able to hire as many teachers as possible to be able to help them make a living in music. As a musician myself, I know that making money in this industry is not always possible.
She has built a referral model because of loyalty, because of how she treats her people. Like, her teachers stay with her because they're being paid well. And she tries to keep her fees down so that her clients will stay with her. And yet she's got to get to scalable. And then that's where it showed up in episode 8. We absolutely saw a mindset shift in Sam, where she made the decision of, it's time to expand. I'm ready there. She made and what happened when she put that energy out there was she had the opportunity to expand her building, to get the whole space, to really grow her business much bigger, much quicker, because she made the decision to do it. And we saw that occur in episode 8.
What's great about this place is
It's over twice the amount of space that we currently have, and with the option of keeping my old space as well. So 3 times the amount of space. It's in a great location that our customers are used to. It has great parking.
And I know that came from Anthony's calls and one of Melissa's calls that she was on, that they really got to her in that space. And then Chad challenged her again, and she was able. He's that guy, man. He is absolutely just in their face as a coach, and that's great. You need to be there.
How many school locations do you want to have in 5 years from now if you get what you want?
So here's the thing is I'm very, very concerned about quality and relationships with the kids.
He challenged her again to say yes. Like the opportunity came up, she was scared of it. But you've got to say yes to it because she's in that space of she's bootstrapping it. She's building a business, but she's also still got a full-time job. Like you have to get to a space to where you got to let go of that job to be able to run the bigger business. You have to absolutely do it. And I think that's where we started to see that show up, come around in episode 10.
Right. So I guess it goes back to Chad originally challenging her. She wasn't ready for the challenge. So she just quit. She's like, I won't do it. If I don't like it, I don't do it. No. You know, the old murmur in the background in The Simpsons, right? You hear the parents talking or whoever, and it's like, you hear that. I think it's The Simpsons. Yeah, you hear this blah, blah, blah. It's kind of, you know, after a certain age, everyone's a freaking know-it-all, right? And no, you're not a know-it-all, right? That's what coaches are there for. That's what people who aren't on the field seeing the game differently, you got to realize, hey, it is where it is. It is what it is. Of course, you got to take cautious approaches to people's advice. You can't just believe everybody blindly, otherwise you'll go in every direction because everybody's got an opinion. So I like that Chad stuck with it. I like that she stuck with it. I like that we saw her mature and open her mind. And I like that it's happening for her. Sustainable? Let's see. She's still stuck in her own ways where she's going to fall back. I don't know. Too early to tell, actually. But I am definitely interested to see what happens. So
we did see some movement, which I like to see.
I saw movement. I want her to expand. I mean, I want her to do well.
I'm the face of I-68, but my brand is with the I-68 family. What they're telling people, who we are and why we do what we do. So that's my opinion on the branding of I-68 Consulting Group. We built that good foundation. Now we're ready to build the rest of the house of I-68 Consulting Group on that good foundation, and we'll see where it takes us.
So he's coming around to the fact, and I think we start seeing it in episode 3, and we're seeing it definitely in episode 9, to where Mark is coming around and saying, you know what, it's okay for it to be seen. We even saw that he was diluting his brand. The I-68 brand is Mark. And he was calling it the I-68 family and spreading it out too thin. We absolutely saw some of that. And I think the brand, and having spent time on the range with Mark, the brand is Mark. Absolutely. I-68 is who he is about. And you'll see that in his documentaries and his interviews. And I love that about him. So we can keep going on that. So let's talk a little bit about episode 10. Like, what's your representation on Mark's leadership skills?
So I think they were honed in his career and they're recognized. So maybe he stops calling it the I-68 family and calls it the I-68 battalion or something like that. That rallies behind him. And he definitely needs to be front runner. He definitely needs to keep the I-68 Consulting, we'll call it brand, but the I-68 Consulting name out there. And he needs to keep going. He needs to keep himself in front and center, his accomplishments, and he needs to keep pushing that and pushing it almost too much. Almost like you see, I hate to pull off of Mark, but there's a guy on YouTube, John McPhee. You look at this guy, Sheriff of Baghdad, and same kind of dude, right? Green Beret, did exceptional things, But you hear the guy doing YouTube shorts and you hear the guy in interviews, just clip after clip after clip about, we were hiding out, walking around, doing this kind of thing. Very vague, but walk through the mechanics of these stories. Then he's talking about, he sells these shooting cards and shooting schools, and he's always being contracted to help law enforcement trainings. That's what I want from Mark. I don't want Mark to be John. I would like Mark to follow the hallway of John and drive business by showcasing his expertise, by getting people, telling bits and pieces of stories, not divulging classified information, of course, but bits and pieces of stories so that he can assert himself as a leader that I know he is, as the operator that I know he is, as the in-theater guy I know he is. And then deploying that information to teach it and then becoming, financially viable because of it. I mean, think about it. What else you going to do as a retired former military person with a bunch of training? Just let it go to waste? No, man. Share it in obviously a controlled environment. Share it. It's your job to bequeath that information onto somebody else. I mean, the guy who taught me to shoot was ex-military. I didn't go to shooter training.
There's a different way that Mark does it. And I will tell you that. And I have taken shooting courses. I have shot my entire life, pick your weapon, played with them all, been through all the courses, done all the things. And I can tell you, Mark does it differently.
They do things that they're kind of scared to do, but then they do them and they feel empowerment. We had a pistol fundamentals course, which we filled the whole thing up. And I got the text from one of the clients, Mark, you and your instructors changed my life. I didn't know that I could do this at this high level. And for me, that just shows, hey, we're doing it right.
And there's a aspect that I'm hoping that is going to develop going forward in the season of him really being able to steer into that, what he does differently, because he absolutely does. I was really inspired. He was teaching a 72-year-old grandmother her basic pistol course, and you'll see some of that as she's out there. She was having a ball. So much confidence coming from nowhere, never touched a gun before in her life, to walking alongside Mark to where by the end of that day, she was a little mini 80-pound beret in her training. It was really cool to watch because he does it different. And getting him to that spot's going to make all the difference.
Let's see it. I want to see that difference. There's my challenge to Mark. Mark, I challenge you. I want to see that difference. Let's tune in for the next several episodes and see what happens.
What we built is an inference layer where people come to a very simple interface, kind of like Google. And instead of Googling something to get an answer, you provide into our window what you would want AI to do for you and why. And you shouldn't need to know how to prompt it. You shouldn't need to know what tools to use. You shouldn't worry if you're using a tool that's going to cost too much money or hallucinate, right? So we really want to make it that easy that humans can just come to a single source of truth, being Loving Is, and say, here's what I want AI to do in this moment, and here's why. And what we found is that here's why part generates substantially better answers, right? Because the other AIs in the world either just don't know why the human wants this presentation done or this research done or this novel written or this faceless video produced. So it's guessing, right? And we know that AI is not very good at intuition.
I liked moving from the collab. I did like in episode 8, where Corey, he basically highlighted everything of the features of Loving Is AI. And that's what we needed. We needed it for the show. I needed it for me. We felt strongly for the audience. To Corey's amazing ability to be coach, stay coach, he did it. And that's what we needed. We needed that user-centric approach to what the heck Loving Is AI people can expect. And we got it. And then, moving that through line, why don't you cover, episode 10 was a big thing with his connections. So why don't you expand on that?
We did. And you and I have said this is influence is leadership. Influence is leadership. If you are influencing someone, you are leading them. Good, bad, or indifferent, you are. Where we saw Corey really step in this last week with his leadership skills is leveraging a massive community that he has and really stepping into where he has influence and being able to communicate with them in a way they understood it. Not just, man, Corey's really smart, but I connect with Corey. We really saw that happen this last week, and we saw it happen with the contestants as well, where he was able to connect with them all.
Yeah, I mean, working smarter, not harder, that's an ongoing debate. I think the best way to describe what I'm trying to do is create a full-service wholesaling operation. So the working smarter, not harder is, after 20 years of building a flipping business, hiring the contractors, getting the contracts together, knowing the interior design, the harder way to do this would be to figure this out on your own, So for me, the working smarter is helping people to develop their own internal systems. And, I guess the unsmart way to do this when I was flipping 40 plus houses in a year was maintaining all the liability, the expenses, the everything that took place all kind of fell in my lap. The working smarter now is I'm diversifying the risk in a lot of ways. Like my clients keep the reward of the back end of the deal, but I take the upfront risk of finding the deal and the costs of marketing and things of that nature, but they're keeping the back end. So in essence, we're both diversifying risk, right? The client doesn't have to do the finding parts. They got a day job. They don't invest time and money in that. And I don't have to worry about the back end stuff.
The hard thing for Donnie was the implementation of the back end strategy. So when we see at 8, we started to begin to implement AI. We started to implement appointment setting, lead management. I mean, think about it, all the way to episode 8. The hard stuff for him was what most people begin to do before they do the hard stuff, or what they really need to do. So he kind of followed that formula in reverse. He was doing all the things, and then the admin piece was the hard step for him. He had to slow down. He had to get into the weeds of the boring things, and then he had to get it done. I mean, look, if he's going to want to win Battleground, these are the kind of things he's got to do, right? You're not going to win. You're not going to win this thing if you don't implement and integrate these things. So what are we looking at here?
You got to be a complete package. I agree. You can't just have great sales to win it. You got to have your systems have got to be in place, and that's where we saw that your ability to not sell but connect with your audience has got to be in place. They have got to know, like, and trust you in order to monetize it. That is the purpose of this. And in the beginning, they might like Donnie. They might trust him, but they didn't know who Donnie really was. They understood what the system was. Like, you've got to have all three of those. And to Mike's point, you've got to have the administration. So then we saw, very recently, last week, we really saw him transition from being that sole operator to building a team. That's when we really started. And that was the leverage piece that he is now able to say, all right, yes, AI can streamline my business. Yes, I can plug in this tool, but somebody's got to run it. And I've got to lead them. I've got to show up as a leader, not a manager, not a pitch man. And he made that choice. And I really think in this last couple of weeks, again, I'll say it again, I think this is where we met Donnie. He started to show up and lead with purpose.
Yeah, it wasn't until I can't remember what coaching call we were on. I finally heard him. I was like, "Oh, Donnie, welcome to the mix, brother. Like, it is good to finally meet you. Let me shake your hand, dude." I love that part of coaching when somebody goes through the threshold and they start that journey. Can they sustain it? Will old habits kick in? I don't know. We'll have to wait to see.
Next time on Boardroom Battleground. Numbers don't lie, as you really don't care how passionate you are.
Pretty soon, you'll have the ability to grow and expand at a much faster pace if you choose to.
Time to face your budgets, the margins, and the financial blind spots that could bring it all down.
Like, I got enough, Donnie. I'm going to do it on my own.
Let's see who's balancing their books and who's off balance.
I want to make sure that we thank the coaches. Absolutely. Anthony Perez, amazing. Melissa Hughes, absolutely fantastic. Jen Loving, one of the best. Chad Mitchell, absolutely amazing. the contestants couldn't be making the moves they are without this substantial board of directors that have been there, done the thing, know how to help them get where they want to go. We cannot thank them enough. And of course, on behalf of Michael and I, we're so excited that you guys are part of Boardroom Battleground. We're excited for the rest of the season. We can't see where this goes. And by God, we're going to crown a winner at the end.